All right, Shalom. First and foremost, giving all praise to Yahweh, Hashem Al Shai, Hashem Rakakadash. I expect this video to be short, like I always say. Just gonna grab a little bit of information. I was scamming. I was reading, skimming and scanning on Facebook, and I saw this post. It was real interesting, so I did some Google research, and the post proved to be true. And I'm gonna go to the post a little bit later, but I wanted to start off right here just to honestly shed some light on the fact that a lot of people teach that the Northern Kingdom was never black, and if you're black, you're Southern Kingdom, and you know and the more and more this information comes out, the more and more you start to, I don't want to say you start to question, but you start to notice the vast majority of this Hebrew Israelite movement are black people, quote unquote black people. That's not to say if you don't look straight up black, or if you don't look like John Shaft or whatever, that you're not an Israelite. We know that we've been scattered and things like that, but we also know when you see the Southern Kingdom on the sign, or when you see people talking about Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the Southern Kingdom, they always display a prototypical so-called black man. And the question has got to be, well, why when you see the Northern Kingdom, you don't see that same display? Number one, they're of the same race. So why would they look different? Unless it was due to admixture. Okay, you want to say the Northern Kingdom mixed themselves, which they did. Well, what did they look like before they mixed? And was it documented what they looked like? Yes, it was. So I'm going to just read this quick scripture real quick. We all know this verse. It's Acts 13:1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called Niger, nigger, and Lucius of Cyrene, and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch, and Saul. Now we all know this word. This is where you get the word negro from. Nigger, Nigeria, all that shit. It means black. Black. And we also know when you go back to this verse and you read it in maybe the NIV. Nah, not the NIV. What's the other one? The NLT. Oh, shit. Should be NLT, I believe. Yeah, among the prophets and teachers of the church at Antioch of Syria were Barnabas, Simeon, called the black man, Lucius from Cyrene, and so on and so forth. So it tells you right there that they know that this is, with the application of this word at this time period, that word, when you see Persinius Niger, when you see this word right here, is talking about a physical appearance. Not like in today's time period where people say like, oh, it means an ignorant person, which it doesn't. It just means a dark-skinned person, a black person. So I want to go to this right quick, because those were Israelites that I just read in Acts 13. Now here, right here, you can see this is a bust, a statue of a Greek-speaking Jew. And as you can see, that's a so-called black man. You can see the hair, you can see the features. And, if you want to be honest, you can say it looks like an African. If you want to be honest. You see what I'm saying? Let's read it right here. It says, Greek-speaking Jews. And I'm going to get the definition of that in a minute. It says, bronze statue of Greek-speaking Jews with dreadlocks, dated about 200 BC. So this is 200 years before the Lord was on the scene. Often called Hellenists, these Israelites had conformed to the customs of the Greeks. Some, however, returned to the Levitical covenant. Some did not, and some repented in Hamashiach. John 12:20. And there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. 21. The same came therefore to Philip, which was of Bethsaida of Galilee, and desired him, saying, Sir, we would see Yahushua. Acts 16 and 1. Then came he to Derbe and Lystra. I can barely read this. And behold, a certain disciple was there, named Timotheus, the son of a certain woman, which was a Jewish and believed, but his father was a Greek. Romans 10 and 12. For there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek, for the same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. So this is a clear description. This is a so-called black person. All right. And the reason why I'm bringing that out is because, first, let's go right here. The Hellenists were those Jews who retained their their Israelite religious practices, but identified with the Hellenic culture of the Roman Empire. Their everyday language was Greek. It was for Hellenists like these that the scriptures have been translated into Greek beginning in the 3rd century BC. Now, this information that I just came across, like I said earlier, it was on YouTube. Not YouTube, it was on Facebook. What is this? Because you see this picture right here of this person, right? Let's read what this says. The name Tuscaloosa comes from the Choctaw words, meaning quote unquote indigenous. Tushka or Tushka, warrior, and Lusa, black, meaning black warrior. It is named in honor of Chief Tuscaloosa, a powerful leader of the Mississippian culture who fought against the Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto in 1540. The city of Tuscaloosa and the Black Warrior River are both named after him. Now, I just showed you in Acts 13, Barnabas and Simeon, they was called nigger, the black man. And here you can see hundreds of years before that even took place, Greek-speaking Jews, clearly black. So if they were called black in Acts 13, even from back then, they had to understand, okay, this black means black. You're not going to call somebody black if they're not black. So a lot of people, they're taking this information and they're saying, yeah, well, they used to paint themselves back then, or no, well, he was slightly darker than the other ones, so that was the reason why he was. Barnabas and Simeon was not called black because they were slightly darker than the other ones. You want to know how I know? Kobe Bryant, his nickname is the Black Mamba. Okay, does that mean he's the blackest person or black amongst so-called black people? No, it's just a nickname. I'm black. I don't necessarily go under that banner. If I was around back then, I probably wouldn't be a part of the Black Panther Party. You see what I'm saying? But just because somebody has the nickname black doesn't mean that they were the anomaly and everyone else around them wasn't black. And that's the argument that people try to make. So this tells you that he fought against Hernando de Soto in 1540. The transatlantic slave trade started in the 1600s. There were no Judah, Benjamin, and Levi in the Americas at this time. So how the fuck is he black? Is he just black and it's just an anomaly? He's a black amongst a whole bunch of people that look like modern day Mexicans and mixed people? How? How would that happen? How is he black and everybody else is damn near white, light skin? How? No, they all were black. They all were black. And you cannot teach Ephraim have mixed himself among the people. Okay, he mixed himself among the people. Cool, agreed, accepted. What did they look like before they mixed? And are all of them mixed? No, because you still have so-called black people in America. There's probably more of the black people in America are probably of Gad and Reuben than they are Judah specifically. You look at a Benjamite or a Levite, you can tell, okay, this person's Jamaican or this person's Haitian or this person is West African. Most black people in America are literally indigenous. And like I said, this is proof. This is in the 1540s. In the 1540s, you want to know what else they called the indigenous people in Brazil? Before the slave trade, they called them negros de terra, blacks of the land. So here you have an instance of these people, the Mississippians, calling themselves black. And you also have an instance of the Spanish coming over, all right, the Edomites, the colonizers coming over before the slave trade took place and calling the people blacks of the land. You're not going to go and call somebody negro if they're not negro. You're not going to call somebody moreno or moreno if they're not moreno. I lived in Mexico for a long time. I was frequently called moreno. There were people who were my complexion, Mexicans, and lighter. They never were called moreno because moreno doesn't just signify, okay, you're dark skinned. We know that that term was applied upon a certain group of people with certain phenotypes and facial features and genetics. Nobody in East India, as black as they are, nobody is going to call them moreno. Nobody's going to call them negro. They're not even going to call themselves that. So, I just wanted to bring this out, man. Yeah, y'all posting them 12 tribes charts and you got somebody that looked like fucking, bro, you look at the chart and it jumps from somebody as black as Wesley Snipes for the Kingdom of Judah to somebody who looks like Ricky Martin. That's false information. Now, just because you look like Ricky Martin, does that mean that you're not an Israelite? No. Why? Because we mixed, quote unquote. And we know what happens when you lay down with different nations and things like that. But prototypically, the Most High himself is a so-called black man, but all of his children aren't. That doesn't make any sense. And I've said this in multiple videos. There's a video of King Marshaw teaching on the street, and he himself said all the tribes came from black people. So why is that not the prototypical look for each and every tribe? Right now, you go into Mexico, there are black people that are not descended of the slave trade. There's Gadites and Reubenites that was in the slave trade that went to the Caribbean islands and had children there. There's Gadites and Reubenites that went to Cuba that was caught up in the slave trade. There's Gadites and Reubenites that went to certain parts of Africa. So you cannot, this is evidence. This is proof. If you place the transatlantic slave trade at 1619, this right here is 1540. 79 years before the slave trade. There were no black people in Americas in the sense of black people from West Africa. The slave trade hadn't taken place yet. So how the hell is this person called black? But now all of a sudden all the tribes is light skinned and mestizos. How? How does that make sense? It don't make sense. You have literally dark skinned people that are from Ephraim, that are from Issachar, that are from Asher. And they're not dark skinned because they mixed in with Africans. They're dark skinned because that's what they originally were. All 12 tribes.